Hey guys, it's Chris from the Silver Symbol channel, and earlier this season I shared my security gate installation with you. Now this thing is still doing just fine during the winter, and of course it has 3 built-in cameras that really act as a deterrent. They're not stealthy at all. But as we move further down the road, things begin to change. Now I also shared a video of this particular installation using a pole and a Ubiquiti G5 Flex camera. Now these actually work super well. They cost about 120 bucks each, so they really are a good value. Now these are partially hidden in the winter, but in the summertime you really don't see these things at all. But where do the wires go? Well, they in fact go right into the ground into this junction box, which is in fact a water meter box. These are cheap, they're durable, and most importantly they give me ready access to the inside box, which is actually a Pelican case where I'm able to make all the connections in a waterproof environment. And here's some detail of the inside of the box. Now here I am using a home run cable right to the camera. Then I put it through this grommet, and it's easy to feed right underground, and it does the job just fine. But much further down the driveway, I am just using a single cable to run about a half a dozen additional cameras. This brings us to the stealthiest cameras I've got on my property. Now when you're driving down this road, you don't see anything at all, even if you're looking around. Now it's the middle of the day and the sun is shining super bright, and of course if we focus in, you can clearly see the cameras. Now if you wanted to paint these in even more camouflage color, they could blend in more, but this black works just fine for me. And there are a lot of myths about mounting anything to a tree, so in this video I'm going to share how I install one of these, some of the tips and tricks I've learned, and hopefully you can adapt some of this to your own installation. I'd also recommend that you mount your cameras as low as possible. Now most people are going to say mount them really high, but if you do that, it's like a drone and you can't really see detail. Look at the clarity from this ground mounted camera. You can see crystal clear detail, and if you want to get license plate numbers, you are absolutely going to want to try to disguise your camera at a much lower mounting point like a tree. Now let's get started on the install. For this, I'm going to be using a Ubiquiti G5 turret. I have certainly used the G5 Flex in many cameras, but for a tree or post mounted installation, I think this is going to be a better choice. I'm also going to try out this new type of grommet. This one has a built-in patch cord that I think is going to make the install quite a bit easier than the normal pass-through grommets that I've used in previous videos. I've also got some cable staples, and additionally you will need a cord to go from the camera to your junction box, or if you're going to do a home run, of course you'll need a cable that's long enough to make the whole thing. And this stuff is definitely the secret sauce if you're going to do network connections outdoors. It's dielectric grease, and as messy as it looks, it really does make your connections waterproof, and I have never had an issue with it. Now for my cameras that are in the woods, I do things a little bit differently. I don't have my junction boxes buried because I've got this old stone wall. I actually do surface run the cords. I tuck them behind the wall and they really don't get walked on at all, so I'm not worried. But the junction box itself is actually just buried under these leaves. This one isn't just connecting up cables. Once I blow off the dust, you will see that inside we've got a pass-through power over Ethernet switch. This is a really cost-effective way to just allow you to use a single cable to feed your junction box and then keep running your cameras further down your road. This works out really well for security cameras on a single run installation, meaning like a road or someplace that you want to cover the perimeter of a property. We need to make a waterproof connection into that junction box. Now to do that, I'm going to use this new type of grommet. Instead of just passing the entire cable through, this actually passes itself into a jack within the grommet. From there, this little blue cable is factory installed. But before I close this up, I am going to liberally apply dielectric grease all over this connector, including the back of it. I want to make sure that no water or moisture can get in here. This dielectric grease is pretty amazing, even on network connections. It doesn't actually interfere with the copper-to-copper connections. It actually gets displaced as you're making that connection. You still get the electric connection, but the area around it is completely encompassed by the grease, giving you that watertight connection. Now I've got to get this opposite end with the blue cord into my junction box, but I don't have any type of knockout. Now that's not a problem, the plastic is really soft, and I'll use this step bit and start drilling a hole until I get the exact size. And while this is open, the other connections you see are coming from the feed itself. That's one line. The other two are the existing cameras that I've got. So this is in fact a third camera connection off of the same single pass-through PoE switch. With the correct hole size ready, I just need to insert this thing, and it's got a little O-ring gasket on the end of it, and you simply tighten it, and that will give you your watertight seal. Now if you wanted to go nuts, you could put silicone or something on the outside, but I don't really think it's necessary. With everything plugged in, if you're working outdoors, I would definitely recommend blowing out any debris in there before you close this box up. Now we need to mount the camera to the tree. Now this is a Ubiquiti G5 turret, which means you need to mount the backing plate first. But you don't have a junction box behind this thing, which requires you to install the camera's connection cable prior to securing this thing down. So one easy trick is just put one of the screws in the tree so that it still remains loose. Now you can go ahead and insert the connection cable behind the plate, then go ahead and screw down at least one other screw. Here's an important tip for mounting any camera on a tree. You want to consider the angle that people are going to see this, and of course the angle that you're trying to record. But if you go ahead and stick that camera on the front face of the tree, you're then going to have to run your cable across the tree. Running that cable horizontally is going to be so much more noticeable. So instead, position the camera as close to the back of the tree as possible so that you can run your cable only vertically. You might also think that putting nails or screws into a tree will harm it or even kill the tree, but all the research I've done shows that that just is not the case. There have been people putting up signs on trees for generations, and they don't just simply all die as a result. But best practice is going to be to use the shortest screws or nails possible. If you can stay within the bark of the tree, that is definitely going to be the safest option. You don't want to go ahead and put 6-inch screws that will go far into the center of the tree, because that could possibly invite problems. You'll want to secure those cables feeding the camera. Now for that you can use cable staples, but these are often brightly colored so that inspectors can easily spot them. Now these Milwaukee ones are of course bright red, but a quick coating of some Krylon plastic paint will make these a lot less noticeable. And this is why running these cables vertically only is so important. You'll have a little bit of a horizontal run, but if it's tucked in behind the tree, it's never going to be visible. Now from this angle, of course, it's pretty visible, but that's exactly why I placed the cameras and the cables in this spot. They're not going to be noticeable from the road at all. And finally, I can tuck these cables in back into the stone wall. And again, I'm just going to cover these with leaves, and if you've spent any time in the woods, you know that in a couple of years, these will be completely covered just by natural stuff falling on top. Once you plug your Ubiquiti camera in and it powers up, it actually announces itself to the network, and now you'll see it within the app because it needs to be adopted. But there's still an extra step if you want to really have this thing be hidden. You want to switch off this power light, or in Ubiquiti's case, they call it a status light. Now this can easily be done within the app, and you can simply turn the slider to off, and now that pesky light is no longer visible, and you will not have any visual indication that this camera is even on. Having a mix of both visible and invisible cameras is really going to give you the best result, and I think the best security system possible. And hopefully this video gave you some ideas that you can use on your own house or property to make it a little bit more secure. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to the Silver Symbol and Silver Symbol Workshop channels for more videos coming up.